If I had my way, everything would be so nice. This world would be like Paris. No, it would be a paradise. No one would ever have to say, I'm gonna get my wish someday. All one would have to do is say, this is my order, if you may.
Welcome to another episode of The School Without Walls. I am Antonio Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program. Today, we're going to deviate from our tradition, that is interviewing some outstanding person. I have a young man here who's a student at the University of Arkansas, Edlun Marshall.
Yes, sir.
He is a graduating senior, president of the University of Arkansas's NAACP chapter. And what we're going to do today is more or less teach rather than interview, and I will be teaching Mr. Marshall and those who will listen about some things that are very important in our culture today, and that is understanding how to properly teach the African American history. I will say this is the African American curriculum that I'm going to present to you, how to teach it. But before I do that, I want to note that this is pre-recorded. Today is January the 14th, 2015. We're preparing ourselves for February, the month of February, which is a tradition to talk about blacks in history. So before we get into talking about the curriculum, I'm going to ask Mr. Marshall the question, why is it that you think we have a month set aside, a time set aside for black history, but we don't have a time set aside for white history, the Chinese history, Mexican history, Yugoslavian, Czechoslovakian, et cetera, et cetera? That has been a question that was raised in a few decades back, but I think most people that are thinking know why today. But what do you think? Why do you think that we have a day for February for blacks, for African Americans?
Okay, I think that the month was allocated for black people simply because we are simply amazing, outstanding intellectuals who are engineers, pioneers, and trendsetters of America. Just think about it, stoplights invented by African Americans, Colgate toothpaste, African Americans, the commode that we use on a daily basis, all
African American.
All are African American.
Okay, now that's good. That's good. Good information. But we still haven't got to what I want us to get to. Now, you're not saying that we don't have outstanding white people, outstanding Chinese, outstanding Mexican. So the reason, let me go to the reasons. That's a good comment. But the reason we want you to understand is because we have been left out of history.
We have.
So whereas all of the other ethnic groups have a background from their native country. For example, the Africans throughout the diaspora, and that means throughout the world, that came out of Africa were disconnected for centuries. Okay, the Chinese were never disconnected, for an example.
True.
You didn't need a school or a day or a month for them because they were still connected with China. The Mexicans were never disconnected, so you don't need a day for Mexicans because they're still connected to that history. Same thing applies to all other ethnic groups, French, Germans, and so forth.
Right.
But we are the only ethnic group on earth. Now, when I say we, I'm meaning African American. I'm owning my African Americanism.
Okay.
So we are the only group that was disconnected and denied the continuity of history. And it was done in order to justify the enslaving of this particular group of people and dehumanizing them. We want to be clear on that. So we've reached a point now, well, it started about 2 to 3 decades ago under Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So all praise should be due to Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a black scholar, black educated man who started the Black History Week in the 30s.
Correct.
And since that time, we've only progressed 3 weeks In one sense, we've made more progress because we have some African American history of the public school system, right? We have some.
That's true.
But what my position is, as a professor and a scholar myself, it's not in there properly. And many of us don't know that, so we're just happy to have some. But the emphases have been placed on what happened since slavery. Skip slavery, which is one of the most crucial period in the lives of a human group.
Indeed it is.
Right?
It
That
is.
was skipped. And we are happy due to the lack of knowledge. And the Bible teaches us we perish because of the lack of knowledge.
That's
So
true.
I'm here today trying to do whatever I can to share what I've learned about which we can, then the question I have on the sheet, what can we do and what must we do? First, we must learn what to do about our history and do it. I should be closing out now on the first half. We have about a minute now. Any comment you want to make before? We have about a half a minute on this from what I've said.
I believe slavery is one of those topics that everyone, they cringe when they hear it.
Do not like to talk
They
about
do
it.
not like to
Black
talk
or
about
white?
slavery. Both.
Right.
Both in some instances. I know a lot of, I have Caucasian friends who, they absolutely ignore the topic of slavery
Right.
because, they don't want you to think that their ancestors had anything to do with it and they just want to go on in life. But we as African Americans, we can't forget where we come from.
We got to remember, haven't we?
We have to remember
And of
where we're
course,
going.
we have some of our people hate to talk about it because it's so, it's so taxing on them. But you got to talk about it and pass it on to your children because it might be repeated. We're going to stop here for a break. We're back in just a few minutes.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume is not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi. God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
Those of you who just joined us, I'm Antonio Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program. Today I'm visiting with Mr. Edlun Marshall, who is a student and graduating senior here at the university. And we're talking about a subject that a lot of people don't have the knowledge to talk about it properly. And many of the white brothers are ashamed to talk about it because of what their ancestors have done to our people. And many of us don't have the knowledge to talk about it because we haven't done in-depth study and it wasn't passed on. So what we're trying to do today is to give an ideal curriculum by which you should learn your history. It's not any different than all other ethnic groups, but what has happened is that about the last 3 decades since blacks have been permitted to talk or write about their experience, it's been done in the wrong fashion. We start with the contemporary, and happy to do that. To give you an example, I won't give the labor of this booklet, but this is where someone, our witness, is talking about the colored troops and regiments in the United States. Talk about Private Lewis Martin and what he contributed. That's wonderful. William Hines, Fulmer. But all of this is stuff that happened in the last 100 years or so. And that is designed by the system by which you will never learn the truth about your origin, your power, and your strength, because in order to get the support of Christian Europeans, the power structure, which is political, had to deceive them to make them believe that these folks from Africa that they're enslaving were not full-fledged human beings.
True.
And that's why we're doing this. We've got, and I hope your generation will constantly explore and get the truth out there, because the truth is uncovered now. They covered up, but it's uncovered now. So I have outlined some things we're going to discuss. Why are African Americans the only ethnic group who knows so little about their history? We sort of hit on that already. It's the slave experience in America.
Brainwashed.
Brainwashed. And how, and what must we do as a people to change this? We're going to talk more about that. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
All right, and then I have some notes I'm going to read from this right over here. We're going to talk about blacks in the Bible, explain that. We're going to talk about the Egyptians, the early Egyptians, and the Coptic religion. We probably can't do all that in one session, but this is what we plan to do. We're going to work with this until we finish it.
Okay.
Now, I have noted here that the world's first civilization was all black civilization. That's what really bothers a lot of people.
It does.
See, the early people were all people of color. And the word black is a European definition, really, given to the darker people of the world.
Correct.
It's just like they didn't give themselves that, but they used it. It's sort of like all of us here are men. We don't have to keep talking around men did this, men did that. We just say we did that because we all know we're men, right?
True.
So that is where we should look at the color situation. The original people were people of color. And there was a reason for that, due to where God placed humanity in the world, in Africa where it was hot, and so forth, and the color had a place of rebelling, the sun, and so forth. But anyway, I have some notes. Please note that most of the public's knowledge about history derives from the white media. It's important to understand. Not
That's
the
true.
black media, not the Hispanic media, but the white media. And of course, the fact is, these are descendants of the ones who enslaved the black people of Africa. All right, the media is important. It's important to understand that this media function is to entertain. Okay, it's not to tell the truth.
That's
A
true.
lot of us get confused. It's entertain, and primarily a paying audience. What audience would that be with the money? White.
True.
That's what the news, the media, and the movie people, they make pictures to make money. Need to understand that. So we need to question anything we see in a movie, because it's slanted. Let's take the story of, I imagine you've seen the story of in Egypt about, what was that movie? Pharaoh. And you see Pharaoh, and that was a movie, one movie in particular, real famous. Everybody knows it. Did I write it down here?
Oh, is it Roots?
No, it's not Roots. It's a movie about the story of the Israelites coming out of Egypt, Moses leading them. The Exodus, I think it was called.
Okay.
Everybody's white.
True.
That's very misleading. But the purpose of the movie was not to give the whole truth, but it was to entertain an audience. But many of us are really deceived by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were, but most of us know better today. But we still have a lot of people think Moses was this actor. Yes, and of course, during that period of time, the Israelites, as well as the Egyptian people of color.
True.
Yeah. All right, we have about another minute. Time slips by when you are dealing with this, and also we have. The question might be, how do we know this? The scientists have fossil records showing these things. there were people 1,000 to 100,000 to 150,000 years ago in Africa. We call them the Homo sapiens, what we are derived from, okay? So these are some of the things that we're going to continue to talk about. So we will stop this on this side of the break with what must we do. So when we come back, you might have some ideas of what we need to do in order to dispel or to uncover the truth about our people. Be back in a few minutes.
If you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter how you play, what you wear, how you dance, or even what direction life takes you. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you.
All in together now. We can make it better now. Come on, can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
We'll rope it up,
'cause we know how to jump.
we'll roll it out,
'Cause we know how to skate.
we'll cut it down,
'Cause we know what to eat.
we'll swap it out.
We eat healthy stuff.
Can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
Can we do it?
Just moving a little and eating better every day can help make you and your child healthier. Search We Can to find doable tips and activities that you can use every day.
To keep your distance until there's no secret that will make you smile.
Reliable sources say that chicken soup has found their way out of this year's dangerous, but they are returned.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Those of you who have just joined us, I'm Antonio Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program. My guest today is Edlun Marshall, graduating senior here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And what we're doing today is a little different than we've been doing. We've been more or less interviewing people about talking about them and their experiences, but we're talking about the black experience with emphasis on preparation for February for Black History Month. So we've talked about some of the problems and so forth. Now, what do we need to do as African American scholars to change this?
Okay, well, first, I would like to say, I believe that you can't tell what you don't know.
There you go.
And you can't lead where you don't go.
Okay, I support that.
So the first thing that we need to do is be grounded.
Be grounded.
In the area.
Enlightened, right?
Enlightened.
Educated.
Educated.
That's what we're trying to do now, right?
Thoroughly educated.
Right.
So therefore, we can teach this upcoming generation that has been deprived of their ancestral, background.
Well, that's it. That's basically what I have. I've noted down, so we need more legitimate black researchers.
We do.
Yeah, when I say legitimate, let's put a pin there, because some researchers are paid by the system to research according to Eurocentric thinking. And if you do that, you will never find what they covered up.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
You will never find it if you're paid by those people, because there's still a group of people who want to keep it covered up. All right, you got to have intelligent, sincere researchers. So let's move to the next thing about what I want to talk about the early African experience. We'll go back to a book that the Christians hold dear. They call it the Bible, right? They call it the Holy Bible. And we'll find in the Holy Bible, in Genesis, and I meant to tell the folks at home to get your pen and pencil and make notes, because we are serious about this. In Genesis 9:19, and in the 10th chapter, 1 through the 32nd verses, you can learn about the generations of the races. And we're going to speak about, there were Noah's 3 sons. That was Ham, Shem, and Japheth. So according to most scholars and biblical scholars as well as scientists, the people that are called the black race came out of Ham. Ham was the darkest of the 3 sons. And of course, this one, Shem, was a person of color, and Japheth was colorless. He would be called white. That's the progenitor of what now is called the white race.
Right.
Most of the people who are scholars agree with that. The reason I said the one who who later became the white race is because there was not a law of segregation during that time. Intermarriage was free. The Bible teaches us that Japheth would be in the tent of Shem, which is under Shem's supervision for many generations. In his tent means like in his house, part of him. This is very important to understand. Ham would be separate because Ham was designated as the first world leader and builder of civilization, Ham and his children. So once we understand that, we know why if you trace the offsprings of Ham, you will have people like Cush. We'd have down there. Cush was one of his sons, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Well, Cush was the founding progenitor of the Ethiopians, and that was much larger than the little nation today in Africa. Well, Mizraim is the founder of the Egyptians. Egypt was much larger than Egypt today. And Put was in North Africa, the Libyans. And Canaan, the land of Canaan, where Palestine is today, those all were Hamites. We would call them Hamites. And we don't have time in this to go into the Japhites, but the Japhites later in time moved into the European area of the world because they could fare better there because they have all the sunlight and so forth. But in time, if we study the Bible and study history, the Hamites and the Shemites stayed together down through thousands of generations, and they intermingled and intermarried, and there was a point in time where you couldn't tell a Hamite from a Shemite because they had blended into another people.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't all dark. So in closing this segment, we want people to know that the Africans, for thousands of centuries, have been a blend of many colors, not all just one color. As the enemy of the white man is, or black man is trying to make us think that all were this particular type, and they made funny cartoons and had a lot of fun off our people. But we mixed, and we have about another minute. If you have something to say, you can say it, but I do have about a minute, Tim, about 1 minute? Okay, in 1 minute, any reaction to what I just said? Ham is the key man. Ham is the progenitor of what we call Africans or black people. And he had Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. And in the Bible, all those Gibeonites and Iberites and Chittichites were people that today would be called black. And of course, we don't want to leave out the Israelites, who also were people of color.
See, that's why it's so difficult for us to say, well, I'm pure black, or I'm pure white, or I'm pure Indian.
Right.
We're all
There's no such thing, is there?
There's no such thing as purity when it comes to ethnicity.
And we need to try to work past that somewhere. I hope we're doing your generation. We can dialogue enough to get past that. The only reason one would have reason to put so much emphasis on it is because of the mess we found ourselves in. Once we can clear up and accept all people as human beings, we don't have to worry too much about what you look like, unless you're a thief, you know, somebody trying to find you, you know, they will describe you.
That's true.
So we're going to close right here, and we will be right back for part 2.